In this lesson, we will be answering questions about circles and solids. Let's first review the definition of a circle. A circle is a plane figure that consists of all points that are the same fixed distance from a point C. The point C is called the center. So this blue figure here is a circle, and this point is the center. The radius of a circle is the distance from the center of the circle to any point on the circle, which should be this distance here. The diameter of a circle is the distance across the circle passing through the center, which should be this distance here. The diameter is twice the radius, and the radius is half the diameter. So if we let r equal the radius, and d equal the diameter, because the diameter is twice the radius, we can write the equation d equals 2 times r, or d equals 2r. And because the radius is half the diameter, we can write the equation r equals d divided by 2. These equations might be helpful when answering our questions about a circle. Going back to the previous slide, in the first circle, we're asked to find the diameter. Looking at the given information, notice how we're given the radius is equal to 4 centimeters, and we're looking for the length of the diameter, which should be the length all the way across the circle, passing through the center. By looking at the figure, we should be able to recognize the diameter is equal to 2 times 4 centimeters, or 8 centimeters. But if we wanted to write an equation, we could write the diameter d is equal to 2 times r, where r is equal to 4 centimeters. 2 times 4 centimeters is equal to 8 centimeters, which is the diameter. In the next circle, we're given the length of segment rj is 10 inches, which means the diameter is 10 inches, and we're asked to determine the radius. Looking at the figure, notice how we can see the radius is equal to half the diameter, and therefore the radius is equal to 10 inches divided by 2, or 5 inches. But if we want to show some work, we can say the radius is equal to d divided by 2, which is 10 inches, divided by 2, and therefore r is equal to 5 inches. Now the third question deals with a sphere. The relationship between the radius and diameter of a sphere is the same relationship as the radius and diameter for a circle. And here we're given the diameter of a sphere is 25 miles. Find the radius. So here we'll use the equation for the radius. The radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. In this case, the radius is equal to 25 miles divided by 2. Let's find this quotient here on the side. So we have 25 divided by 2. There's 1, 2, and 2. 1 times 2 is 2. We subtract. The difference is 0. Bring down the 5. There are 2 2's in 5. 2 times 2 is 4. We subtract. Subtract, the difference is 1. So the quotient is 12 and 1/2, which means the radius is 12 and 1/2. But let's also express this using a decimal. So I'll put a decimal to the right of the 5, and then up into the quotient, and now we can add a 0 and bring it down. And now determine how many 2's in 10, which is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract, the difference is 0. The quotient is 12.5, and therefore the radius is 12.5 miles. And now for the next question, we're asked to identify each solid. Referring to our notes, here we have a rectangular solid, a cube, a square pyramid, a sphere, a cylinder, and a cone. So you may want to pause the video and review some of these definitions. Going back to our question, looking at our first figure here, we have 2 parallel bases that are circles, and therefore this is a cylinder. A cylinder is a solid with curved sides and 2 parallel bases that are circles. Looking at the next solid, we need to decide whether this is a rectangular solid or a cube. A rectangular solid is a solid that consists of 6 sides or faces, all of which are rectangles, and a cube is a rectangular solid whose 6 sides are squares. We're not given any measurements of the sides, and therefore we cannot assume all the faces are squares, so we'll identify this as a rectangular solid. Now looking at figure C, notice how this solid does resemble a square pyramid, where a square pyramid is a solid with a square base and triangular sides which meet at a point called the apex. But our base is not a square, our base is a triangle, and therefore the name of this solid is a triangular pyramid. I hope you found this helpful.